Hey guys, this is TinTim. That is T-I-N as in nasturtiums, T-I-M as in marigolds, and I am, God, it's been so long. I am America's first drag queen public intellectual, aka the Cornell motherfucking West of drag. Although, as you will notice right now, I am not in face. I will probably not be able to be in face much, if at all, unfortunately, during season 6. And I'm not sure if I'll be able to even come to you guys every week or not, even. I'm in my last semester at grad school and working at my ongoing nonprofit work 3 days a week, and then 2 days a week at a field placement for grad school. Things are a little it's just crazy, and that kind of needs to be the priority right now. Those of you who were following me at Queens of the Week, where I was a regular contributor for a little while, know that I left that channel in the fall for the same reason. So I didn't even know if I was going to tune in and bring you guys a video at all, but I decided that it's been such a long time, and I miss you, and it's season 6, it's exciting, and so I felt like I owed it to regular viewers to at least say something as the season gets going, and hopefully I'll be able to tune in again, maybe if not every week, at least in every few weeks, kind of increments. Probably out of drag, maybe in drag, we'll see what's coming up. What sucks about not being in drag is I actually feel like my paint has gotten a lot better since y'all first met me. And so it's kind of like the irony is I can't show it or do it. But, yeah, I'll be back eventually. I'll have a little more time to drag it up. But in the meantime, yeah, I'm doing this unedited in my iPad, so I'm gonna try not to edit, because part of the time-consuming part of making these, the most time-consuming in some ways, actually is the editing. It's the most time-consuming thing after the face. Actually, recording is the least time-consuming of the three, right? But, so I'm just gonna, talk off the top of my head, so that could be a disaster, or it could be great. We'll see how it goes! Woo! So episode 1 of season 6. I am probably going to step outside the consensus a little bit here, because it seems like most people that I've talked to or seen on, Reddit and shit, or on Facebook, whatever, or Chad Sell's blog, shout out to Chad Sell, most people seem a little bit frustrated with them breaking the premiere into the two halves, into 2 groups of 7. I actually kind of love it. And it's because I've always been really frustrated in previous years with just being overloaded by the number of queens in the first episode, and maybe it's because I like to see a little bit more of each person and what they can do. Maybe that's my temperament. Maybe it's a temperament thing. Different people have different preferences or something. But I really loved only having 7 to focus on, and felt like I could focus on them a lot more. Even with, as a lot of people have mentioned, them giving the majority of the confessional time to Adore Delano and Gia Gunn, rather than the bottom 2 girls like you would think they would. But I do think it probably would have been a little bit better and a little less anticlimactic at the end if they had aired both halves the same night, and we could have kind of gone straight through. And I also think it would have been fun to have a shocking face-to-face moment where the second group was introduced before the first group was maybe expecting to see them, and they were face-to-face for a minute before getting separated, something. It could just be because I watched the first since I watched the episode a week early and didn't see the ending, that I wanted, by the time the actual air date rolled around and I was tuning in to see the end, then I wanted to see a more surprising ending than just either Vivacious or Kelly going home. When you wait that long, then you start to have expectations for something more interesting than what would have just seemed totally normal if you'd been watching straight through. So maybe in future years I'll stop watching a week early, I don't know. Because that's happened to me before. I feel like when I've watched the preview, by the time I watch the next week, and you're by the time I watch the next week, you're kind of expecting something more than just in either or. I don't know. I don't like either or. I don't like it when there's only 2 options, because then both seem predictable or unsatisfying or something. Whereas, obviously in a normal episode there'd be so much else to distract you, you wouldn't think about that. But by the time you're getting around a week later, and so the only new thing you're seeing is the elimination, then you want something more interesting to happen, I think. That's me anyway. But And and yeah, so but in general, this episode, like, I also people have been saying they thought it was kind of the energy was low or something, but I had a lot more fun, to be honest, watching it than I've had watching the show in a long time. And maybe it's because I didn't necessarily think I was going to make a video, and I think part of what's made the show harder to kind of like just kind of fall into and get totally involved in and invested in the last couple seasons has been doing these videos, because I think unfortunately when you're like approaching something in a critical way and knowing that you're going to have to analyze it or talk about it, then you're like a little bit outside of it and you can't get totally engulfed in it. I think the other thing that has happened is, starting with the All-Star season and maybe also the tail end of season 4, these are the first seasons where I've been at all involved in a drag community in real life, and I think that changes how you watch the show also. It starts to, you get overwhelmed about people talking about Drag Race, or you start to get tired of Drag Race, or you, get tired of it being the only thing that a lot of people see or think of as drag sometimes, or it's just or because you know more about, maybe how queens create their drag or make decisions, or the way they behave in groups together in their communities, then you watch it through that lens, and it's a little bit harder to just get involved in the sort of constructed story they're telling on the screen without being like, oh, that wouldn't happen that way, or something, right? It throws you out of the story a little more, I think. But I don't know, this episode I just let myself get into it again. And there were moments that felt a little less staged and a little more authentic to me than what we saw in the season 5 premiere. Like all that staged Alyssa Coco drama and everything just felt so from the beginning like bah. And this season felt like there was a little more downtime in the first episode. Maybe that's what I like that other people don't. I like to have a little bit of a lull before things, a little more of an arc. I don't like it when one episode is just all bah up here. I like a little bit more, I don't know, of a journey or something. But I don't know, some people's reactions seemed a little bit more in the moment or something. I think authenticity can be just as artificial or whatever, especially in drag. That's the whole point of drag in a way, right? And, there's always a production element to it, and that's part of what we enjoy and part of what makes it television. I've talked about that, enough in other seasons. But, I don't know, there were a few, moments that felt a little bit more off the cuff and shit in this one. For instance, the little interaction between Adore and Laganja when they were, when Laganja was passing out the, clothes, the items, the TV show boxes, and Adore was like, Golden Girls, Golden Girls, Golden Girls, and then Laganja gave her the other one, and Adore was like, ah. It felt maybe that was, staged or whatever, but to me it felt a little more like the kind of authentic, sort of fun, bitchy cuntiness that would happen between drag sisters, and Adore was sort of, acted put off by it, but in a kind of fun way, just kind of playing along, and I felt like it captured a little bit more of, I don't know, the way queens would actually interact with each other in the world or something, especially when they're peers and sisters like those two are. I don't know. But, so, the other thing that's really great, I think, about and I'm looking at the time counter and this is getting long, which is what happens when you don't edit, sorry. But, I usually refuse to go over 5 minutes. But, the other great thing about getting the 7 and 7 is that I can actually talk about each queen, which is fun since I did not do a video about the Meet the Queens videos and preview this year like I did last few seasons. I haven't talked about this group at all yet before this video. So let's start with the bottom. Kelly Mantle. Like a lot of people, I was very disappointed to see her go so early. I think, as a lot of people have said, she's funny and smart. Visually not the most interesting or inspiring to me visually, but what I haven't heard people say that I really like about her humor, I've heard them say that her humor is sort of this stealth humor, sort of like a kind of dry humor, but I haven't heard them say that I feel like part of what attracts me to her, and maybe this does go with the intelligence that people have been talking about, but I get this sort of fun, almost punk underground kind of DIY vibe to the way that she does her art. And, yeah, she's on big mainstream TV shows and as an actor and whatever, but the music that she's made and doing drag, I guess, like, and sort of a more casual, kind of more androgynous, just drag rather than a hugely made up one. But doing that sort of just casual drag in a non-club venue, like as a musician with, groups like Transcontinental or like her own album. She just seems like someone who has like a kind of eclectic and career outside the drag mainstream, which is something that I always appreciate and think is really interesting. So, before watching the season, I'd only ever seen her in that stand-up special that she did for Logo. So now I'm excited to go back and look at more of her previous work. And I'm sad that we won't get to see her do an acting challenge or a singing challenge. Vivacious, our other bottom tour, other one from the bottom two, not tour. She's not that. She could go on tour. Whatever. So much fun. Like a lot of people have been saying, I really love what she represents in that era, and getting to see that sort of classic New York club kid. Like a lot of people, I like the concepts for her looks better than the way they're executed. But I'm glad we'll get to see her another week, and because just her presence is so fantastic. And what I'm most excited about with Vivacious, what I was really nervous about going into the season, was that because there is that slight lack of polish to her execution, I was worried that she was one of these people that they were going to make look foolish. One of my least favorite things on Drag Race is when very talented queens are sort of made to look like fools, and all of the humor feels like it's at their expense. To me, one of the most notorious examples of that is Milan, who I think is ridiculously talented, and now she's just a punchline about Swiffering the floor and wig pulls, and that's all we talk about, rather than everything else she can bring to the table, and a lot of that is what they chose to depict about her. Obviously, you have to give the material to do that, but I think that's unfortunate when all we know is sort of like the punchline and not the rest of what a queen has to offer, and it makes me like a little uncomfortable. So I was worried that we were going to get that with Vivacious, and in a way the edit sort of did that, like with the zipper joke, and like she can't pull the zipper down on her face with her outfit. But there's a dignity or something that the way she just carries herself and the way people receive her, that kind of, I think, trumps that. And she comes out, I think, I don't know, it feels like there's a respect for her. And certainly amongst the fans, from what I'm seeing on Reddit and stuff, people respect her, what she represents, her talent, and the fierce performances that she has been giving at, a lot of the Drag Race events, like closing the show in New York for the whatever. I think people are like recognizing how fierce she is. And not just laughing at her, but laughing with her, being entertained by her, thinking that she's, just like such a great personality, and I'm happy to see that. That's my favorite thing about Vivacious. So those are the bottom two. For the top two, top one, Ms. BenDeLaCreme. I love BenDeLaCreme. I know some people are a little annoyed by the personality, but I'm not. For me, so far, it kind of is terminally delightful, and I'm really interested in Ben's history. He actually started here in Chicago, performing with the Drag Kings, the Chicago Kings, and I know people who were friends with her back then, and so I'm interested in the fact that in some ways she's a very classical kind of this, vintagey, camp humory kind of queen. But at the same time, she also has this unconventional element of performing with burlesque troupes, performing with drag kings, kind of being part of an underground. And I'm finding myself more attracted to her than I was to Jinx Monsoon, who I was worried she'd get compared to a lot. It hasn't happened yet, so hopefully it'll stay that way. Hopefully she'll be received on her own terms, and we won't get stupid Jinx comparisons like we did with Alaska and Sharon. But, yeah, yeah, so I think she's smart, quick, funny, and there's just a confidence that comes through, and a self-assuredness, and a kind of veteran quality that is very different from Jinx, at least when she came in. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of Ben. Then the three in the middle. Gia Gunn's from here in Chicago. Gia Gunn, our bitch of the first episode. have my own experiences with her. We did a photo shoot together. I feel like I've shared this story maybe before, not in my videos, but like on Reddit. I did a photo shoot with her where she was in like full-on diva mode in a way that some people might be irritated by, but I actually thought was hysterical and entertaining. She showed up late, and then she took about 3 hours to get into face, so they had to kind of cram in her photos at the end to make sure they could get them all. But the whole time, there was really bad light in the room where we were sitting around waiting and getting ready, and so the whole time she was kind of complaining about the lack of light. And so they finally, they got a light for her, but it still wasn't enough. And then my friend, Shantae Detroit, who's a queen here in town, knocks over the light at one point by mistake, and it falls over, and it crashes, and it shatters, and it was just hysterical. And then after Gia gets ready, she was doing a dead Ariel, the Little Mermaid look, so it was like skeleton on the outside of the fish scales, but she had a fin on that she couldn't walk in. So these big buff dudes had to pick her up and carry her onto set to get the photo taken. She was just sort of like, carry me, in that voice, and, hysterical. So, cunt is her persona and her personality, I think, in and out of drag, and she's talented enough that, it's earned, it's funny, for me. So it could be that she's a difficult person to get along with. I don't know. I haven't worked with her enough closely. I don't know her. So until I'm a person who, if I have no reason to be upset with you because you haven't hurt me personally, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And I find her really entertaining. So, we'll see how long that she's in. She's clearly giving good confessional so far. So, April Carrión, I'm really pleasantly surprised by. I thought that maybe she was going to be a little bit more dull or kind of just into being pretty with her drag, and I like her art student background and her sort of avant-garde impulses are a lot stronger than I realized, and I think she's one of the strongest queens visually and into doing interesting things on the runway, so we'll see what she does. I do think she has a strong eye and strong execution. Some of the looks she's doing feel like the dresses that she wore to both the LA premiere and the New York premiere, which were both amazing. She was looked the best out of, one of the best looking of any of the queens. And the construction and design of them was flawless. These amazing sort of geometric, three-dimensional things. But they felt like a little bit of a familiar idea of couture avant-garde, kind of things that we saw Lady Gaga wearing in 2009, 2010. And the same thing with her Duck Dynasty outfit, the way she put it together and worked with those materials, considering that it's really hard to make those fierce and pretty when you're working with flannel, right? Was great, but it also it looked like a lot of looks I've seen before. So I think that she has the capacity to be really creative, and I'm looking forward to seeing her evolve, and when she uses, all of that skill and ability, willingness to take risks to just blow me away with something that is completely unfamiliar and that I haven't seen before. Because I feel like she has the potential to be a real visual artist as a queen, and that's one of my favorite kinds of queens to see, is someone who's very visually inventive. Jesus, fuck, this is going to be long. I've always avoided these long-ass ones. If any of you are still watching, thank you. But, I might not be around as much this season, so you'll just have to, watch this in increments or something. You can space it out over a few weeks, and then you'll never go into TinTim withdrawal, right? Yeah. Who haven't I talked about? There's one person I haven't talked about. It's probably someone I really love, too. It's always funny when you, do... Oh, Laganja. And I haven't talked about Laganja or Adore. Our little fearsome LA young twosome. I love Adore Delano, especially, and a lot more than I expected to. I thought she would be really entertaining, but I thought she might be, good television in, a bah way. But she's actually, surprisingly nuanced in her delivery of comedy, I feel like. She's quick. She's... I think genuinely funny. She's clever, and she has wit. That's what I wasn't necessarily expecting. A lot of young queens, when they're trying to be funny, don't have wit. And that's what I think Laganja's lacking a little bit. It's all this forced personality with Laganja, but no sort of quickness of wit to go with it, and Adore is funny. And the other thing that Adore has that I think is not very common in someone her age, is usually more common in more mature folks, is she's able to be simultaneously self-effacing and confident in a way that's really endearing. Like, she kind of makes fun of herself. Maybe as a little bit of a defense mechanism if she says, I'm a polish remover, then no one else can, right? But it doesn't come across as, like, sort of insecure or needy at all. She still comes across as very self-assured and very funny, and that will take her far in her life, I think. If she is starting here and then still has all this maturing to do, she's a natural television personality, I think, and just a natural entertainment personality. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing more of her. And Laganja, I maybe hinted at this, but, I think that she seems someone who is very visually inventive, potentially also, but for me the drag isn't all there yet, especially her paint. I keep wincing because some of the things she does with eye makeup remind me of things I've done that I hate looking at the pictures of now, like blacked out colors with, up against each other and stuff. But yeah, the personality to me does feel like, it feels like a wall. It's not inviting the viewer in, it's pushing them away. It doesn't matter to me how much of a performance, how authentic, how put on, like, I don't care about that, vulnerability and, like, whatever. But you need to make a connection, and for me, the connection isn't there yet. But we'll see. I actually love, like, my favorite thing about Laganja, interestingly enough, is his boy drag. I think that he's totally upped the game on boy drag, on Drag Race, and I want to mop that yellow faux fur thing, like, maybe it's real fur, I don't know, but that yellow fur thing so badly. That is so cute. And I love the little hair whorl, which is perfect. Although, so, if you look closely, I kept wondering how he was keeping the hair so perfect, pulling wigs on and off, and in the Drag Race setting, and if you look closely in certain takes, you can see that he bobby pins the bottom of the hair whorl in. So, bobby pins in and out of drag. You go. That's all for this week, I think. I know I went on for like 20 minutes, so. Much love to you all. Hopefully this won't be the last you see of me this season. Mwah.